Okay.
Morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Thank you. You want to set our intention?
I would love to set our intention because I love talking about finding our new normal together and continuing on our theme of switching things up while finding our new normal. This week, we're going to talk about switching up our fitness by looking at three of the points: the brain, the body, and the spirit, and wrapping it up by why you need to bring all three together for total fitness.
Yeah.
Would you like to start us and lead us in a guided?
Lord, I would. Let's do. Last week we started doing this breathing in and breathing out, in sync with our intention. So let's do that again. You okay with that?
I would love to do that.
Cool. All right. So we're going to close our eyes, drop your shoulders, roll your head just a little bit. Try and relax all those muscles in your shoulders and neck and drop the stress, any stress, any tension, because this is an amazing conversation we're about to have. So we're going to breathe in through our noses and out through our mouth. So breathe in, change, and breathe out the way it is. Breathe out the way it's always been. Breathe in, switching up routines. And breathe out, doing things the same way every time. And again, drop your shoulders, feel your shoulders drop just a little bit. So let's do a little body work with the breath this time. Breathe in, deep breath, hold it on the top. Let that energy flow all the way down from the top of your head, from your crown, all the way down through your shoulders. Feel it radiate all the way down and breathe out. Feel your muscles relax. Feel that tension just melt away with that breath. And breathe in and open your eyes and breathe in a smile. Excellent. Good. So we're today we're talking about fitness, one of my favorite things to talk about. And I think people hear fitness and they get scared. You know, they think, oh no, they're going to talk to us about going to the gym and working out and, all these robotic things that we hear ad nauseum, right? But we're going to
That are often wrapped in.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a twist on that. So, and excuse us, we've got the audio issues happening again with Blab. So we'll figure this guy out. So if we talk over each other, it's okay. No worries.
We're gonna roll with it.
Company, right? We're with among friends. So you mentioned three areas of fitness that we're going to focus on. Brain, which also can be considered mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the brain. And that's a logical place for both of us to talk about. There are so many cool ways that you can work on brain fitness. A few of my favorites, and I've got a lot of them, but this is one we talked about a bit too. Change things, make your brain a little bit uncomfortable. So you want to break that routine enough so that your brain is not used to and comfortable with what it's doing. Put on surgical gloves while you type. I spend so much time at the computer just doing something small, like changing how my hands feel when they touch the keys, right? Changes the entire experience, activates other areas in the brain. We've talked about sensory activation, amazing brain exercises. Put something that smells good next to you. Cup of coffee. Up to the face.
Always.
Breathe it in. Breathe in the smell of the coffee and you can almost feel the brain chemicals cross-pollinate. So you're activating that sense of smell, sense of taste, and memories as well. So a brain exercise doesn't have to be a game that you play on your iPhone, which is good though.
Right.
Games are good. Don't get me wrong. That's my stock and trade is brain games. However, you can make your whole life a brain game, I guess is my point. By making your brain not comfortable. Switch it up.
I think there are so many activities out there, just daily activities, where our brain can be activated in a way that takes us out of our comfort zone,
right,
and doesn't feel like we're practicing fitness. You know, one of my favorite ones that you've done with me, Ruth, was when we stood in the center of the department store and I had to close my eyes. Yep.
Yes.
And
yes.
just focus on all of those things that I was sensing without my vision.
Right.
And it was amazing.
And you bring up a great point. So we're comfortable with understanding our world and understanding how we see the world through our eyes, through seeing. One of the best ways to complicate an exercise or to complicate a moment in your life from a brain perspective is to take away that vision. Close your eyes, put on a blindfold, and focus on the other senses. Focus on other ways to understand the world, and you activate your brain in incredible ways. And you also enhance your experience too. We stood in the middle of, it was actually the cosmetics department, and that was by design, because there are so many smells and sounds. The people around, you know, what do you call them? The people who do makeup. Anesthetist or something like that. But, you know, they were doing makeup on people and people were laughing, and we were, you know, we focused on how our skin felt. We were just right inside the door. So occasionally you get that rush of cool air from the outside or warm air or whatever it is, the change in temperature on your skin, the smells, the sounds, the taste on your lips.
The taste on my lips, it's perfect that you bring that up, because I think that was the most shocking part of that little exercise, if you will, for me, was that I had never thought about tasting the amount of perfume that was in the air on my lips. Because we take so much for granted. When our eyes are in play, we're focused on where we're going to, not where we are in that moment, on all the other information that's coming to us that we're filtering out without awareness.
Right.
But I think go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, one of the benefits of kind of, if you will, momentarily isolating brain fitness is recognizing just how many things are taking place in our brain without our awareness at all. And
absolutely. Yeah. And switching up routines, which is what we're talking about all month, is an incredible brain exercise. Changing it, making it not comfortable, rewrite your mental maps. Our brains like categories. Our brains like to be comfortable in understanding things in categories. So shift those categories just slightly. Here's another really cool one. And I do this one. One of the most boring things in my life is laundry. And folding laundry just is frequently, the laundry will hit my bed, go from the basket to the bed, and then it'll go back in the basket because I just don't want to deal with it. I can do things like sort my clothes in colors, sort them in seasons, sort them in places that they're going to go differently than I normally would. I normally sort things in, this is going to go in these drawers. What if I say, these are all the red things that are going to go in these drawers? Yes, you have more piles, on your bed or wherever you're sorting your clothes, but you're also switching up how you think about something so routine. Another thing that you can do is fold your socks in balls and juggle. Or throw them at someone across the room. That's a fun activity too. We'll work your smile muscles, right?
We may or may not have done that around this house several times. So.
Yeah.
I was thinking also another one is turning on some music. So when you talk about juggling, or if you turn on some music and you kind of dance, or you're doing some some deep knee bends or something along the way, then you're going from mind into the body, and you're switching up the physical part of the body and incorporating some fitness in that arena that isn't going to the gym, isn't the I have to do this because I have to. There's no guilt around it. We all have to do laundry. It doesn't fold itself, unfortunately. But you can make it fun, just like you can any kind of physical or brain fitness.
Yeah. And the other part of that, great point. You said we all have to do laundry. What are those things that we all have to do? We all have to eat. Turn that into a brain exercise. You can make eating the most amazing sensory experience imaginable without seeing anything. Activate those other parts of your brain. Turn that into a brain exercise.
And I think that what you just touched upon, those things that we do every day, switching those up. How can I make eating different? It could be, I love pizza. Well, but pizza gets boring even for the most mundane. But how can you make pizza new again? How can you make it exciting? Sure, you could add some different spices or some different toppings, but just the act. Ruth, you did an exercise with me and a group that you presented to with an apple that changed an apple eating experience for me and switched it up, that lit up my brain. Can you share that one?
Sure. And actually, you can do this with your imagination. We did it with actual physical apples. But you activate as many areas, almost as many areas in your brain when you imagine doing an activity as you do when you're actually doing an activity, which is another cool thing. So if you're sitting somewhere and you're bored, you can take an experience, recreate it in your mind, and create those great chemicals and electrical activity. So imagine you're holding an apple and you roll it around in your fingers and you feel the smoothness. You run into all of a sudden your thumb runs into the stem on the apple, and it's a little bit of a rough spot, so it's not rolling as smoothly. Take that apple, put it up to your mouth. Imagine biting into it. So you feel the resistance of the skin, the juice that's exploding in your mouth. You can smell it, feel it, taste it, whatever that is, whatever that experience becomes for you. That's amazing. So take a bite, feel the juices encompass your mouth. That's a mini example of what an apple does. But take some food and experience it fully, absolutely fully. Then you can take that exercise, recreate it in those, I'm waiting in line at the bank and I am so bored I can't stand it. Imagine yourself eating that apple. Imagine yourself standing in the cosmetics department, right?
Even as you were describing the apple experience, my salivary glands started going. I was tasting that apple. I was anticipating the first bite and then biting into it again. And first I thought I had to close my eyes. I didn't even close my eyes. I was there in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. So when you get yourself to the point where you can dream or imagine with eyes wide open, and imagine that you're using every sense except for your eyes, that's an even fuller and richer brain exercise. So we talk about games that you can play, and we both write, so we love words. There are things that you have to do. We have to go to the grocery store, which in Southern California, that means we have to stand in line at the checkout stand. Turn that into a brain exercise. Pick up a magazine and look at all the words on the cover of the magazine and create a new sentence. Or pick a long word and see how many words you can pull out of that long word. All of those things are great things to do. So again, you have to do that. You've got to stand in that line. You may be deathly bored in that line. Make it a more enjoyable experience and make it a brain exercise.
And I was just thinking, you could count how many red shirts do I see while standing in line? How many people are wearing boots? How many boots do I count?
Right?
Almost as though you're standing with a toddler trying to entertain them, but you're entertaining yourself.
Which is something you and I do very well.
We do.
You know, if I had a superpower, entertaining myself might be that superpower. That's,
I think
that's a good quality to have from a brain health and brain fitness perspective.
And I think a life fitness perspective. I think the ability to entertain ourselves and take the mundane out of the everyday experience. That's what switching it up is really all about. Right. And if you're ready, shall we talk about a little bit about body fitness at
Go
this
for
point?
It. Go for it.
Okay. I will say, after my brain injury, as you know, I couldn't bend down without getting dizzy. In fact, I couldn't move quickly without getting dizzy. There was a lot of dizziness involved. And I have just found that within probably the last 2 to 3 weeks, I can actually hold myself, put my head down, and then look up again without falling over, which is big progress for me because that means that I can do one of my favorite stretches, which is downward dog again.
Awesome.
And it also brings back planks for me. So that is a switching it up. And a plank exercise is one of my very favorite because I do incorporate the brain while I'm holding my plank position. I tend to either visualize what I would like my body to look like, or just I focus on those areas of the body where I'm feeling the real strength. Mm-hmm. So it ties the connection together. But it's switching up the physical without, again, feeling I have to go to the gym or I have to do whatever. And it's not taking tons of time. It's a plank is 30 seconds, maybe. I was at much longer than.
My plank is shorter than that, just for the record. It's what you can do, right? It's however much you can do.
Without beating yourself up, because my plank was a lot longer before I was in my accident. And it can be difficult. I love doing push-ups on my bathroom, against my bathroom wall when I'm waiting for my shower water to get warm. Again, it's not focusing on where we once were, but focusing on where we are today and starting up from there again, I think is the important thing. And that's a big part of switching up our fitness, is saying, this is where I am today. This is what I can do. I can go for a walk around my yard. Maybe that's it. Or I can get up the stairs 2 times. Maybe that's it. Mm-hmm. But looking at it as focused physical activity.
And when we do that, when we focus on where we are at this moment, we really are letting go of the way it's always been. That I think, and I haven't thought about this much, but it just occurred to me that maybe that's what binds us is, you said my planks used to be longer. I used to be able to accomplish all of these things from a physical body fitness perspective. As we get older, it's not just injury. It's as we get older, our fitness constraints become different. So it's not a matter of saying, I can't do this anymore. It's I can do this. And I can do a plank. I can do a plank for 15 seconds. And I can also modify that plank. Let's try and take it in a different direction. Just because you did the same routine for 10 years, it worked. My body was fit. Awesome. I played racquetball for years and years and years. Can't do that anymore for a whole lot of reasons. And I spent a lot of time, beating myself up over, oh, you're getting old. This is just getting old and blah, blah, blah. That's not true. I can move it in a different direction. Take those elements that you loved in the things that you used to do, the way it used to be, and try and roll them into something new. In whatever dose you can do is the perfect dose for you.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing, because anytime we hold ourselves back to a standard that we might have met at one time,
Mhm.
we're holding ourselves back, period. We're
Right.
saying these were the glory days and you can't move forward. And a big part of switching it up is a willingness and the courage to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I used to be a runner. I loved running. I can't anymore. My knees won't have it.
Yeah. But what can you do? I mean, what wonderful things can you do in the day?
Well,
I mean, I can go for a walk and change up how I go for a walk. I can walk 50 yards, skip 50 yards.
I
You know?
can run around. I've got a perfect circular path around the center of my house. One of my favorite things to do is running in the circle with the dog as a training technique as well, where we
Mhm.
play the find it game and I duck into one of the rooms really quick.
Right.
One of the things I did this morning was I sat with my legs crossed while I was doing some puppy handling. As for those that don't know, we raise guide dog puppies. And so a lot of my daily activity involves a puppy. But I sat with my legs crossed and then I stretched my legs out to rebuild some flexibility. And that was a different thing for me. Just the sitting position was different and took some focused thought and checking in with my body, the mind-body connection again of saying, is this okay, body? Does it hurt?
Right.
Are
Right.
you physically okay with this?
Mm-hmm.
And then say, okay, time for a stretch. So I think that's a big part of switching it up too. I think we are conditioned so often to say, plow through it.
Yes.
Feel the burn, plow through it.
Right.
But I think we need to switch that up and say, are you okay with this body?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
finding that balance.
Check in.
Check in.
Yourself. Yeah. On all of these levels, on brain, on body, on spirit. Check in. Make sure you're serving yourself well.
Exactly. And I think, you mentioned spirit and checking in with spirit. And do you want to take the lead on that and talk about why that's important to check in and the connection between the two others?
Yeah. I think that it's a comfort level. And I think that creating peace with yourself, creating that feeling of ease with yourself and your place in the world is how I see spirit. That's when I say spirit fitness. I'm looking at how comfortable am I with my place in the world and my where I'm standing right now, where I'm sitting right now. How does this fit in the grand scheme of things? And how comfortable am I with that? So when you exercise your connection with your spirit, you explore, reach out a little bit, try different purposeful things, try different things that feed how you feel, feed you on an emotional level, feed you on that deep, I am here for a reason, for a purpose level. So those are the kind of things that are good fitness exercises for the spirit. Think beyond what's right in front of you. Try and put yourself in other people's shoes. Look at their connection with the world around them. And instead of putting, gee, I wish I was like that, think about, what does that person do? How is that person acting so that they can be in this place of connected with the world or whatever it is? See what you can do to move a little bit forward with spirit. Spirit fitness is tough to talk about. It's hard we don't have the right language for it, I guess, is my issue.
I think you're right in that it is a challenge to discuss. I think one of the things that I think about, though, when I think about switching it up and switching up spirit, is how can you're so right about the language, but how can I be more present in every given moment as opposed to 5 steps ahead or 2 weeks ahead or 2 months ahead? How can I be present in this moment And how can I remember that I can breathe through the moment, just as we did at the beginning of this talk? You know, the other day as I was driving down to an appointment and traffic was heavy and I was 5 miles ahead of myself. Am I going to be late? What are they going to say? What's the next step? All of those things. And in that moment, as I sat there on the freeway, all of a sudden I heard this little voice say, just breathe.
Yeah.
I thought, there it is, switching things up. And sometimes switching things up is just breathing through a stressful moment, as opposed to allowing the stress to then seep in almost at the cellular level and say, I will control you from this level. And you say, and I will roll with breath.
Yeah.
That is, I think, many times the easiest way to switch it up too.
The most dramatic way to switch up your connection with your spirit is to change your perspective. And we are conditioned, and you and I talk about this nonstop. We're conditioned to anticipate what's going to happen, and not always from the best perspective. So my last week of 2015, I'm not big on quotes and memes and that kind of stuff, but I saw this quote from Rumi that said, live life as if it were rigged in your favor. And that's what I'm trying to do. Everything's rigged in my favor. I'm putting myself out there in the world today, and instead of whatever perspective I was going to take, everything's rigged in my favor, and that's the way it's going to be. So that perspective shift is a shift in spirit, and that's how you can work your fitness. For lack of words to describe what the heck we're talking about, right? Yeah.
I agree. And the last one I will add to that is, I think that also we are conditioned in our society to think that we can control events.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that when I got to a place where I shifted my language from control to take charge of my responses and my reactions.
Right.
It started to shift my perspective.
Yeah.
I can't control the driver in front of me, the driver behind me. I can take charge of how I react to the traffic around me. And the traffic sure seems a lot less stressful when I view it as non-threatening.
And when you're looking not at the traffic as an obstacle, but you're looking at your moment as, what am I going to do right now to make this moment worth living? And stressing about the traffic doesn't even get in there, not even a variable. So change your variables, change those things that you use to define your moment. It's like we talked about, the best brain exercise is to cut off your primary sense. The best spirit exercise is to cut off your go-to, that preventing mode that we get into and allowing. Shift that.
And I think that leads us to a perfect conclusion. I apologize for talking over you with the delay again. Sorry.
Fine. And that's something we can't control. So if we just go with it, I think our conversation is better too. I decided not to be stressed by that today. Knew it was going to happen. It's just one of the things that happens with this technology.
And learning to just, again, roll with these things. In the big scheme of things, I used to play a game with my children. Will it matter in 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 months, 2 years? That's the relative importance. Exactly. If it's not going to matter in 2 whatevers, then you figure it out. But I think you were addressing a really good point too, which is there is such a connection between mind, body, and spirit that can't be separated. They really do intertwine so tightly that when you talk about whether it's spirit, and I'm stressed about traffic, your body feels it, your mind focuses on it. So you can't, when we talk fitness, you can't really separate the three, although we addressed all three separately today.
There's that intertwined nature That's the brain, the body, the spirit. And most people talk about mind, body, spirit. I think our being more specific with fitness, with brain, body, spirit, makes a great point. All of these exercises that we're talking about can be integrated. You know, all of them we can take the things that you do every day and make them a way to stretch how your brain works, how your body works, and your connection to the world.
I agree. And I think that's the perfect place to conclude today's chat.
And it's 8:30.
Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah. And I will see you next week. Same bat time.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yep.
Bye-bye.